The Philadelphia Eagles are traveling to Minnesota to take on the Vikings in what feels like a must-win game. A game where they must instill confidence back in the organization and the fan base. A lot of familiar faces. And let me tell you, there's one key that will decide whether or not the Eagles win this football game. And in that department, Howie Roseman might actually be gearing up for a blockbuster trade. So we'll react to that. We'll talk about this matchup and preview some of the keys for the Eagles to get back on track this weekend. All that and more coming up here on A to Z Philly. But welcome into the show. I am RB. Still can't get the bad taste out of my mouth from last week. I know the pages have turned. I know that the Eagles are 4-2 and the rest of the division lost, which helps. But this feels like a turning point in the season. It is now or never. And it's most likely going to be Carson Wentz on Sunday. And if the Eagles get carved up by Carson Wentz, it will almost feel like rock bottom. So we'll talk about that matchup. We'll get there with all of that. Give me your thoughts on this matchup below. And I want to start it off with a quick injury update. So Landon Dickerson was a limited participant yesterday at practice. Same with Quinyon Mitchell. Seems like he's getting back on track to play, which is huge in this matchup. Zach Bond, Jalen Carter, and Jordan Davis were full participants. So Jalen Carter, with the heel injury, said, I'm playing this week. The Eagles need all reinforcements. They need everybody. Now, on the flip side, Minnesota's dealing with a few injuries. Everybody was a limited participant at practice. Their O-line is banged up a bit. Donovan Jackson's been out. So on that right side, they may have a backup or two in, and the Eagles definitely need to exploit that. They need to get to the Minnesota Vikings this week, and they need to get to Carson Wentz. That is how they will win this game. But before we talk about that more, in terms of the pass rush, we've talked about multiple trade candidates over the last couple of days. And today we get another bombshell report that the Eagles are one of the 4 teams in the mix for Trey Hendrickson at the deadline. Here is what he said. The Eagles are another team expected to make a bid for Hendrickson. They are one of the worst pass rushing teams in the league. So there will be confirmed interest in Trey Hendrickson for the Philadelphia Eagles. And my question to you is, do you think that is the right solution? Is that the guy that they should go out, give up a boatload for to get on this team? Will he fix the issues? Well, let's talk about Trey Hendrickson, right? Because we talked about a bunch of guys in the last few days, but Trey Hendrickson is different, right? Talent-wise. Now, he is 30 years old, but he is a game wrecker. He is a game changer. He has made the Pro Bowl the last 4 years after being a third-round pick back in 2017. Had an okay start to his career, but he really took off, right? 2021, he had 14 sacks. 22, he had 8 sacks in 15 games. And the last 2 years, he has had 17 and a half sacks each year. He led the league last year. He is one of the best pass rushers in the league, no doubt. And I think having a talent on the defensive line like that would monumentally change things for this team. But on the flip side, Vic Fangio had a guy in Bryce Huff last year who was more of a pass rush specialist. He never really fit into the equation. And Vic has also had guys before that are big names that really can't fit in because of the way that they play, especially when you take into account the types of schemes that these guys have played in the past. So I'm not saying that Trey Hendrickson isn't the right move and that he wouldn't be a game wrecker for the Eagles. But what I am saying is when you consider all things and you look at the holes on this team right now, and you look at Trey Hendrickson being 30 years old, being on a 1-year contract where you're probably going to have to give up more to get him than anybody else, and then you're still going to have to fix the other issues with this team, I just think it is a lot, and I'm not sure if Howie Roseman would actually do it. Like I said, there are pros and cons here. He already has 4 sacks in 6 games, but if you do go trade for Trey Hendrickson, what do you give up to get him? How do you make that work? And when Nolan Smith comes back in a couple weeks, and you have Jalen Hurts, what happens with that situation? So I think you have to take all of it into consideration. But in terms of Trey Hendrickson, he has accounted for 46% of the Bengals sacks since the start of last season. And Myles Garrett at 33% is the only other player to produce more than 30% of his team sacks since 2024. So we know how good Trey Hendrickson is. And if the right trade is there, then pull the trigger. But if not, I wouldn't sweat it. Speaking of sweat, Josh Sweat is actually playing pretty well over there in Arizona. But nonetheless, let's talk about this matchup because, like I said, the Eagles are going to have to get to the quarterback. Carson Wentz has played good. I think he's at 70% in completion, 5 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. He's played 3 games. Now, the Vikings really haven't moved the ball that well downfield, but when they do get downfield, they are top 10 in red zone offense. They are top 12 in points scored. They know how to put the ball in the end zone. Why? Because they have big-time playmakers, Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison and TJ Hawkinson. Jordan Mason has been a pretty good revelation in the last year or so. They have the weapons to put it in the end zone. They just haven't had it all click yet. Kind of like the Eagles. But in terms of Philadelphia, it feels like they're not being creative enough. And I was thinking about this preview, and I'm thinking about everything we've talked about the last couple weeks. Honestly, it all doesn't matter because I can run through every stat category and I can run through every player matchup and how things weigh out and which guys stack up better in this matchup or that matchup. But really, it doesn't matter. We know the Eagles have the talent. The question is, are they going to utilize it? And that is not something we can really measure based on stats on paper. Eagles have to go out there and do it. So the Eagles have constantly talked about this challenge and about this battle they're going through, right? And AJ and Saquon and Jalen have had meetings, and they asked all of these guys about it. Saquon said the offense looks like it's going to be better. AJ said that, they don't really have much wrong right now, and they're all on the same page. And Jalen Hurts was asked about how he processes these frustrations if things aren't going great. He says, smile and accept the challenge. So the optics are correct. They're saying the right things, but the question is, are they going to actually do it? And I think I'm at a point now where if I don't see it, I'm not going to believe it. Back to the Minnesota Vikings. They have been one of the better defenses in the NFL this season. Isaiah Rodgers has been a revelation for them. He's one of the best graded corners in the NFL this season. They have a pretty good defensive line, solid pass rush. They're about midway in the NFL in terms of generating pressure and sacks, but really when it comes down to it, they are 5th and 6th respectively in terms of points given up and yards given up, so they know how to make the stop when they need it. The Vikings defense is clicking on all cylinders right now, and the Eagles offense has no identity. They are nowhere to be found. Now, hopefully, this can replicate last year's bye week. You had a mini bye where you go back, you communicate with your big-time playmakers, you watch film, and you fix what you're doing wrong. It has to be now for the Eagles. I know they have a bye week in a few weeks, but you have to come back with a statement and beat Minnesota and beat New York and get back on track. Otherwise, if you lose this game, and let's say you get embarrassed by Carson Wentz, this could be the nail in the coffin. I can't believe I'm saying that this early in the season. But other than the Eagles offense actually doing something and utilizing their weapons, the other key of the game, and the main key of the game, is getting to Carson Wentz. The Vikings are giving up the 3rd most sacks in the NFL. Their O-line is banged up. I know the Eagles just had their best edge rusher, who's on the field right now, retire. But Vic Fangio, you have to turn up the pressure however you can, whether it's a disguise blitz, whether it's bringing in corner blitzes. I don't care what it is. You have to get to Carson Wentz. We've known this guy for a long time. Nothing new. He's got playmakers out there to throw the ball to. If you give him time, he will make plays. But if you bring pressure and get in his face, he is going to leave the ball up in the air and leave it up for easy turnovers. That's it. Simple as that. The Vikings have had no pass protection, and the Eagles have had no pass rush. I do feel better about Jalen Carter playing, but I feel like the defense has gotten fatigued a lot in games this year, and it seems like when they get to that point, they kind of just bottom out, and they kind of just flatten. So I would also look at the offense and say, use Saquon Barkley. I mean, he's been under, 60 yards in 5 of the games? He has to have a breakout game. The Eagles have to get him there however they can, and they have to make something happen because right now, the Vikings' run defense is not that solid. Like I said, in the air, they've been spectacular, but we'll see what happens. Javon Hargrave, Isaiah Rodgers, like I said, who's been amazing. Carson Wentz, you can't lose to these guys, man. So at the end of the day, based on how the Eagles are playing right now, every fiber in my being is telling my head, don't pick the Eagles. Don't pick the Eagles. They're not playing well enough right now. They have a lot of injuries. It's good that Quinyon will likely be back and Jalen Carter will be back. But on the flip side, I'm telling myself that this is a statement game, and this could either be the nail in the coffin or the game that resurrects this team after the mini bye week. And I just can't see a way that this team loses to Carson Wentz. If they get picked apart by Carson Wentz, then it is time to seriously consider making some major changes, because I will not stand for it. So maybe I'm being delusional, but the Vikings give up a ton of sacks. The Eagles are probably going to be motivated after Za'Darius Smith just suddenly retired. I think they go out and get to Carson Wentz. And on the flip side, Vikings can't really stop the run that well. I think Saquon Barkley finally breaks it open and has a game. It may not be pretty, but the Eagles will find a way to get this done because they have to. I'm going to say Eagles win it 27-23 in a tough environment on the road. Drop your final score prediction down below. Appreciate everybody for tapping in. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And as always, I will catch you on the next one.